Welcome to a special edition of American Politics. I'm Bill Trezevant. Tonight's guest is a very special guest for me. He's a gentleman that I look up to and is a leader in his community. Um, his journey is interesting, his heart is amazing, and his wisdom is profound. With that, I hope you enjoy this very personal episode of American Politics. Thank you. From IBMTV International Broadcast Media, this is American Politics, a unique broadcast bringing you in depth discussions with American leaders in political thought, analysis, and insight, and real world experience. Without any agenda or traditional gotcha journalism, I invite you, the audience, to share a conversation with our guests. I am Bill Trezevant, your host. Today we have the pleasure of welcoming Bruce Anthony Trezevant, founder of Project Unity USA, activist with the Columbia, South Carolina NAACP, and a man of wisdom and charm. How are you, Bruce?
Man, that was a great introduction. I am doing great. Thank you.
Well, I try to aspire to being as charming as you. I know it's tough, but
Well,
I
I'm trying to figure out who you were talking about there for a minute.
No, no, no. Listen, I guess I just want to begin with this first one. I am honored. This is a very, very special interview for me here at American Politics because I have such respect for Bruce. And for full disclosure, I will just go through a simple question to make sure that we clarify it. Bruce, where did you get your last name?
My grandfather, as far as I know, as far back as I went. My grandfather, my father, and then myself.
Okay. And I received mine from my father, and he received his from his grandfather. And it turns out that we have the same grandfather, Bruce.
Right. Correct.
So I went north, and Bruce stayed south.
I think Mr. Trezevant stayed south. My father stayed south. Yeah.
All right. Well, my Mr. Trezevant went north, but
Yes.
in any event, I'd like you to talk a little bit more and introduce yourself to our audience and tell us about your journey, because it's a very interesting journey, and it really sets the basis for what you've done later on and what you're doing now and where we go. So, Bruce, first tell us about yourself.
Okay. I'll tell you what. Let me go back to we talked about family, and I think that this family has really cultured me and conformed me to be the way I am right now. My grandmother, Eva P. Trezevant, Eva Prelo Trezevant, as would be, she worked side by side with Majeska Simpkins, which is a very prominent name here in Columbia, South Carolina. Majeska Simpkins was the first Black female to vote in the state of South Carolina. My grandmother, Eva P. Trezevant, was the second Black female to vote in the state of South Carolina. And she was always active in the community, trying to encourage and
Okay. Actually, what year was it when they first voted? Do you recall?
I don't recall the year. And I was looking that up, trying to find that before we came to the broadcast here. But I'm sure that I'll find that later. And I get that.
You know what I know? They were number 1 and number 2, right, Bruce?
Oh yes, certainly was.
So go ahead. So the activism.
The activism in that kind of set with me, and she later formed an organization called the Vanguard Club, and that was to, like I said, give culture to Black men and women, young men and women, teaching them etiquette and all that kind of great stuff. My father, he started the Trezevant Funeral Home and crematorium. He was the first black funeral home owner to have a crematorium in the state of South Carolina, and that lasted for several years, quite a long time actually. And he since passed away. And but while he was there, he was also president of the Funeral Directors Association for the state of South Carolina. He helped write the cremation laws for the state of South Carolina. And he's very active. He helped a lot of black funeral homes stay in business, get in business, and help them, to stay straight and everything. After I grew up, I left, and actually before I left, I went to Eau Claire High School, left, joined Los Angeles Police Department, and there I worked in the community a lot. I worked narcotics, I worked gangs, anti-terrorism, and burglary divisions. And I guess there I learned about, how crime affected people, and majorly older people, and, younger people as well, but majorly older people were my heartstring. That's where my heartstring was tugged at. I actually had one block area in my division that the gang members knew not to go there. The narcotic folks knew not to go there. And it was mainly of older people. They knew that if I was on duty, that wasn't the place to be, because I would make sure they found another home very quickly.
Right.
I left LAPD and came to Columbia, South Carolina, joined Richland County Sheriff Department, and worked there for a while. Had a little issue getting the blue blood out of my system. Still hadn't gotten it out yet, but I also always knew that I wanted to stay near the community and do things to help the community be a better place. Left that, started my own company in technology, and been working in technology for a long time now. And one day I was, this is back in 2006, I was in the front yard with my mother, and a guy, he was dealing narcotics and everything, walking down the street. We looked over our shoulder, saw him, he saw us, and he, pointed guns at us and, made a bunch of threats and everything. Generally, I packed all the time. Just so that particular time I wasn't. That never happened again. I'll stay prepared next time. But even so, I was always taught not to get in a firefight with my family close by. So I didn't. I waited, called police. And during that particular time, law enforcement was not responding to the Black community as they should have been. So I started an organization at that time called Project Unity SC, which stood for Project Unity South Carolina. We rapidly started growing, adding branches all over the place. We added 3 branches within the year, one down in Charleston, Raleigh, North Carolina, and down in, I think it was one of the places in Florida. Can't get this tie right. But so we started there, and then it started expanding from there. We went to Greenville, Florence, to start working with domestic violence, human trafficking, narcotic areas, and high crime areas. And we work coincide along with law enforcement, the community, business people in the community, and the media. And we found that bringing these folks together and, joining forces and agreeing with each other and getting an understanding of each other's particular job and position in the community, we started being very successful. And I think that's what helped us to grow real well. Currently, today, we're actually, with Project Unity, we're working with an organization called Low Country Lowline. And they're actually building a park, a massive park down in Charleston. And it's going to be for everybody, and it's something that's well needed in Charleston and everything. So, we team up and partner with a lot of different organizations, and, we do things to just generally make the community better. Over the years, we're directly responsible for the capture and prosecution of 15 murder suspects. We've solved many.
No, if I may, because so Project Unity began when you founded it in South Carolina, and for our audience's sake, it's now you have other branches. Then how many?
We have 8 branches now. We have one in Los Angeles, the other 6 of them in South Carolina, and one's in North Carolina. We lost the one in Florida.
Oh, okay. Well, the good work will certainly come through again. But so you have these 8 branches,
Mhm.
and every single branch is deeply involved in the community. Both so from California to North Carolina to South Carolina, you have an extensive organization. It sounds like,
Yes, it's grown quite a bit.
and it's all dedicated to community improvement.
Yes, it's the betterment of the community so it can make a safer place for everybody that lives in that community.
Okay, and you were beginning to talk about um, Project Unity USA, their involvement in capturing wanted criminals. Now, I've never heard of a service organization become an active participant. How did you come up with that idea?
Actually, I kind of fell into it. We talk a lot to folks in the community. Um, I get phone calls when the victims of these crimes, the homicide especially, I get phone calls from the family asking me to help out with the investigation or to somehow find out more about what's going on. And what I do is I just develop relationships in the community, and
Mhm.
I don't necessarily develop. I mean, I develop them with our, let's say, upper class folks, our middle class folks, but also go to the folks that are less fortunate and the actual criminal, and trying to develop relationships with them as well. Because
Mhm.
if you want to know what's going on in the community, you're going to have to talk to the criminals in that community because they're the ones that's out there 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, causing havoc and everything. So, developing good relationships and trusting relationships with them, they tend to tell you information that they won't tell the police. I'm
Mhm.
sure you are aware that, us as Black folks are not as comfortable with law enforcement as, our white counterparts. So, but they are comfortable with me. They know that, I was a police officer, but yet they are able to talk to me because they trust that I will, take care of the information that they've given me and I won't necessarily put their lives in danger.
That-
And, they appreciate that.
Okay, that is very interesting, and it's very rare because we've all heard about community uh, policing programs, and even the programs that were started under then President Clinton. But um, those were just having the police officers just familiarize themselves with their neighborhoods. But I've never heard of the unique relationship where, in speaking with people that walk close to the line or slightly over the line, actively coming forward and knowingly handing over information that of bad things that are going on in their neighborhood. So that's unique and a first for me, Bruce.
Actually, you know what? That's made Project Unity as successful as it has been. Um, you know, Having people on my staff that are ex law enforcement
Hmm.
that have a good relationship with the community, and that's what it takes. In fact, community policing was all about relationships. But again, even with community policing, you still have the issue of Black folks not feeling comfortable with law enforcement.
Right.
And that's something that we were able to circumvent.
Okay. And so then your organization has replicated that in each of the 8 chapters in the 3 different states that you operate currently.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, with that in mind, you were about to go in before I interrupted you, and I certainly apologize for that because you indeed are the guest. But I wanted to have you kind of explain how you've been leveraging your organization into capturing criminals.
Well, when it started out, the whole thing was to make the community safe.
Hmm.
Uh, in engaging the community, we let them know that they had a job to do in this, making them safe as well. It's not like they can say, well, you come and make my community safe, or law enforcement, you come and make my community safe, and we're all good. It's not like that. You have to have some investment in the community as well. So that's what we try and do, encourage community people in the community that they have to have an investment in the community. And their investment is to speak up when they see these different crimes and not just lock down and not say anything to anybody, because they're the ones that's there. Even with us, Project Unity, we're not there when it happens. We actually come in after the fact, just like law enforcement comes in after the fact.
Uh-huh.
So we come in not knowing. The only advantage that we have as Project Unity is that, one, they trust us because we're not the actual police, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
They trust us because we hold that information, and they know what we're trying to do is to clean up their community.
Hmm.
So I mean, so it really works out well there. It also, getting our clergy and our stores or businesses involved in this thing, because a lot of times in the communities, and especially in the Black communities, there are lack of jobs.
Right.
And when you have lack of job, then you start losing hope. You're going to do what you have to do to either feed your family or get those drugs, or just to get what you want. And
Hmm.
includes robbing, stealing, and killing. And but if you have a job, more than likely you're not going to go out there robbing, stealing, and killing, because now you have a partial investment in the community. You have a job, you're being a productive citizen, and you're trying to make things right for you and your family.
Hmm.
So what we're trying to do is, companies that are in the minority community, or even companies that are not, we try to encourage them to open up companies in the Black community, and provide jobs for them.
Okay.
And that's where the business folks come in at.
Hmm.
With the media, one thing we had a bad issue with at Eau Claire High School, my alma mater. Anytime anything happened bad, the media would jump on it and broadcast it all over the place. Well,
Hmm.
we went to the media and we said, "Hey, look, there are great things coming out of Eau Claire High School." We had a young man came out of Eau Claire High School and went straight to the pro basketball. We had a young lady that came out of Eau Claire High School, went to the Olympics. We had a lot of great things come out of Eau Claire High School. A lot of great youth coming out of Eau Claire High School. I think I'm pretty good. I came out of Eau Claire High School. But we encourage the media to talk more about some of the positive things that are going on in the community. And that helped the community too, because, if the community's out there and being beat down every day about, and then number of homicides out there, and, no kind of good things, positive things that are spoken about the community, then they're going to start acting out what they see or what they feel that you're talking about mostly.
Hmm.
So that's how the media played part in it. And we talk about, speaking with pastors and asking them to get involved, asking the church to come out of their four walls and get into the community and help those folks in the community. Because surely enough, at some point in time, one of those persons that dies in that community on that street is a member of one of these churches.
Hmm.
And the last thing a pastor should want to do is do a eulogy over a,
Right.
fallen member of their church. So we ask them to get involved as well.
Okay. So how many uh, criminals have you guys helped catch?
On the homicide part, that's the only part that I kept track of. That's 15 right now that we've actually have caught and convicted. Burglary, I'm not too sure of the numbers with that one,
Hmm.
but I know it's well over 20 or 30 actually,
Hmm.
somewhere in that neighborhood. Um, but not only do we do that, we work with human trafficking, where we've helped recover victims of human trafficking.
Hmm.
Um, we've done a lot of work with domestic violence,
Hmm.
and we've spent, I think, if I get my numbers right, in the last 6 years, we spent over $150,000 paying for hotels, emergency travel,
Hmm.
food, clothing for victims of domestic violence.
Okay. Listen, quickly, because I'm gonna ask this question. What is your website? And then I have a question for you while you tell me that.
Okay, is
Hmm.
projectunityusa.org.
Okay, that's easy enough.
Projectunityusa.org, right. You,
ProjectUnityUS.org.
right.
Okay. Now, you you come from this wealth of long-standing family activism in the community, in the same community, in Columbia, South Carolina. Um, Now, in addition to Project Unity USA, what other kinds of organizations are you involved, if any?
Yeah, well, I'm the vice president of the River Vets of Columbia. It's a Corvette club. All of us, of course, own Corvettes.
Okay.
We're doing a big event. It's going to be in conjunction with Project Unity and the River Vets of Columbia. River Vets of Columbia are going to be doing hosting our second annual South Carolina First Responders Appreciation Day here in Columbia on November the 21st at the Dutch Square Mall.
Okay.
And that's going to be a pretty large gathering of folks, but it's going to be outside, and we're requiring masks for everybody.
Okay.
We do believe that this virus is real. Right now, South Carolina is in a good state where we're on the downturn of everything, and hopefully it'll stay that way.
Okay.
And I'm, you know, I guess I've received different awards for the community work that I've done.
Uh-huh.
One of the biggest award that I received that I thought was pretty cool was the Humanitarian of the Year award from the city of Columbia. Um,
Mm,
that was for my donating a kidney to a good friend of mine, and
mm,
that's another thing that's unheard of in the Black community. I speak for the Red Cross for, in the areas of um, organ donations in the Black
mhm.
community. We think we're supposed to take our organs with us to heaven, and that's how it's supposed to be. But you know, in my case, God gave me two kidneys. In the standard case of people, God gives you two kidneys, and if you can help somebody that is on dialysis and that is suffering from kidney failure, I believe that we should do that. Black folks are in more need of kidney, than white folks are, and but we're at least have to do, stand up and help our brother in that case.
Okay. Now, and that is really truly amazing at a very personal level. So you were grounded in all of those areas. Now, I was curious to see, well, also pleasantly surprised. Not that I'm biased or anything, but that you're running for president of the NAACP in Columbia, South Carolina. What can you tell me about that? What can you tell the world about that, and the rest of the nation?
Okay. I grew up watching the NAACP and the different marches and civil rights marches, basically on TV, of course, because I was very much shielded from all of that, the racism part and that kind of stuff. But when I got here to South Carolina, I really experienced racism. Even when I came back from Los Angeles, I experienced a lot of racism here in South Carolina. Um, you know, NAACP in the past was always at the forefront of social issues. And you saw a social issue. They were actually on television. They were talking, speaking out. They were leading the march for social justice. And I know in the last 4 or 5 years is at least I've not seen them out front or publicly doing things that are um, correcting injustices to the Black community, are standing up for different things in the Black community. So I decided to run for the president of the Columbia branch of the NAACP to lend my leadership
Hmm.
to the NAACP and see what we can do about getting back on the forefront,
Uh-huh.
developing bigger membership. Right now, I think it's only 700 members in the whole city of Columbia
Hmm.
that are members of NAACP in the whole city of Columbia. A
Hmm.
city that has about 3 million folks. We
Uh-huh.
have 700 folks as members, and
Yeah.
that's something that we can change. That's one of the first things we can change. We talk about minority participation in city government contracts.
Uh-huh.
Way low, and that's something else that we should be talking about, because first person that's going to hire a minority is another minority,
Mm.
and
Mm.
especially in those communities.
Mhm.
So we need that support from our local government. There need to be set asides for minority contractors, such as they are in like I deal with military contracts
Uh-huh.
and government contracts. There's always set asides, and I don't see why the city or the county can't do the same thing.
Mm. 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 You know, uh, it almost sounds as if you're looking to rebuild an organization that your grandmother and mother had built before, and you're following in the very same footsteps. Do you think that's in your DNA, Bruce?
It most certainly is. Because sometimes I stop and ask myself, what am I doing? These people don't want to be helped. But for some reason, I keep coming back to the table. I keep coming back and trying to figure out what can we do to make things better in our community. Um, and we have to do that. We have to do that. We have to step up. We have to stop being afraid to step up and speak out. Um, the larger the organization gets to be, the more powerful it can be, the bigger voice it will have. So I would encourage more people, and not only Black folk, but people that care about injustice or justice, to join the NAACP, to be a part of it, because the NAACP itself was founded by white folks and Black folks coming together to decide that there needs to be a change.
Mhm.
So it's not only just for Black folks. That's
Mhm.
what a lot of people think. I know it says about colored people, but it's for all people.
And and that's interesting. And one of the reasons why I was really looking forward to this discussion, Bruce, is that currently in South Carolina, something, well, for the rest of us, well, that are not from there. I'm not from there, but I am from there. I mean, my
Yeah,
roots, my
right.
father just did everything, and the, I, but it is unimaginable. At least I never thought it would be the case that a Democrat would be elected from South Carolina in the modern era of American politics. And I never thought that a black Democrat would be elected to the United States Senate from South Carolina. But yet we find that the current incumbent senator is in a very, very tight race with, actually statistically tied, with Jamie Harrison, who is a who's a Democrat who happens to be black, who is running for the United States Senate. What can you tell me about what's going on in Columbia, South Carolina?
I think in South Carolina, period, time is changing. And it's not so much looking at black or white, but what's best for me. I'm speaking of each individual person.
Uh-huh.
Now looking at what's best for them. I think the Democrats, when they talk about the Affordable Care Plan, and the Republicans are trying to take it away without any kind of replacement, I think that affects a lot more people than just black people. It affects a lot more people. I think we have a president right now that I'm not too sure about, just not too sure about it. And I think Senator Graham has, I think he's kind of like misplaced his loyalties,
Mm.
and I think that's where his biggest issues are coming from right now. In the beginning, he talked bad about President Trump, and then when he needed to get close to President Trump, all of a sudden he's the greatest thing, next to Ice-T.
Mhm.
So, but we as people of South Carolina, we're not slow. We're very, very smart people, very intelligent people, and we see what's going on. And I think that's why this race is so tight, when it comes to politics. This is why it's so tight there.
Okay, so when through your work and the people and the connections and everything else, so in the senatorial race, it's that it's healthcare. It's what, the economy as well.
I think the economy actually is the economy, healthcare. But right now, they're talking about cutting off healthcare for millions of people.
Uh huh.
And that's going to be directly affecting millions of people. The economy, this crash, I think more so was because of the COVID-19.
Hmm.
And I think that because it is a problem, and because it's not being taken seriously,
Hmm.
I don't think people can get past the healthcare part of it. Because in order to get the economy back rolling, you have to have healthy people.
Hmm.
And if you lose your insurance because you have a pre-existing, issue, which COVID is,
Hmm.
then you're not going to be able to have any kind of doctor's care,
Right.
uh, other than what a lot of folks do right now or have been doing, is going to the emergency room.
So what I hear you saying is that first it's the pandemic, which
Hmm.
has hurt the economy, and that the people of South and so that's a significant thing. So the people of South Carolina are looking at how the response to COVID has been mismanaged. That's what I hear you saying. Is that a fair kind
Yeah, yeah,
of? Okay.
exactly.
And then what I hear you saying is that the voters in South Carolina um, are really concerned about bread and butter issues, like their jobs and their health care. Is
Hmm.
that a fair assessment?
Right, right.
And then finally, with the senatorial race, I hear you saying that people just are, what, they see through or they dislike uh, Senator Graham's uh, change of support for the president from being against him to now being for him.
Well, I think that flip flop is something that we don't like seeing in politics at all, but it does happen quite often. Um, but I think mostly we are, as a people, we are afraid because it's COVID, of course. We're
Hmm.
afraid because we don't know what's coming next. I think, we're afraid of the unknown. And let me put it like that. Um, I went out and voted yesterday and was able to stand in line, of course, a long line, And I was
Yeah.
able to talk to a lot of people doing, in that line and everything. And I, I think the consensus is you know, Affordable Care Plan was the biggest census that was there. The mistrust of the president
Hmm.
was actually, a great part of, I believe, why a lot of people, the majority of people have come out and voted early,
Okay. Well,
and
then let me just kind of touch base on that one, because this is it's another item that I find particularly stunning. What is the support like for Biden in South Carolina?
I think it's an overwhelming support of Biden and Jamie Harris in South Carolina. I think that obviously for Jamie because they're in a dead heat, you know.
Uh-huh.
So with Biden, I think that a lot of Republicans are coming over because they're tired of you know. I don't think Republicans are bad. I think they just have a different way of doing things,
Uh-huh.
and I think that they are also tired of the riffraff and the things that are going on that they see, in politics today. And they're tired of being told one thing when they know that that is not the correct, thing. Um, and the leadership, Republicans are better than what our president is right now.
Mm, mm. So, um, so now Colombia, the makeup of Colombia is changing because we hear all the time that there's been an influx of Northerners. First, it was into Florida, then it was into North Carolina. But South Carolina has been experiencing the same kind of demographic change. Is that right or no?
Right. It has. And there's a lot of influx of Hispanic here in South Carolina. Um, I have to tell you this joke about it. It's not a joke. This is actually factual.
Mhm.
When I was growing up, I had to, at Eau Claire High School, I took a Spanish class. I don't know how I got in it, but, fell in this thing. And I would sit back and say, well, I'll never speak Spanish. I don't even know anybody Hispanic. And at the time I would say Mexican, but then I've learned that Hispanic. And I kept saying, I don't know anybody and I'm not going to need this. And I would just slough off class. I was one of our better football players
Mhm.
back in the day. And I got out of the class. Lo and behold, I joined the Los Angeles Police Department, and guess what I had to learn? Spanish. you know, so I say that to say that back then there were no Hispanics in South Carolina, but now there's a great deal of Hispanics in South Carolina, and they are counted as the minority as well.
Mhm.
So when you see that influx, and then the influx of folks coming from north coming down here, then I think that the makeup, you're right, is changing. Um, I think there's going to be it's going to be turned into a blue state if it continues the way it's going right now.
And so you think it's that close? You think because it would be stunning if a Democrat won in the Senate. Let me ask you this: what do you think the possibility is that Trump wins uh, the state of South Carolina and Jamie Harrison is elected to the Senate? Do you think they'd split the ballot that way?
I don't think they split the ballot that way. No, I really don't. I think that um, for president, they won't be voting for Trump. Most folks that are, common sense folks won't be, um, or anybody that's not mesmerized by, the things that he says.
Hmm.
So no, I don't think that the vote will be split in that sense. I think the people are really getting tired of um, our current president, and the folks that are around him.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you this: what is the general sense of, well, from your viewpoint, of the larger trends? Because you've got uh, chapters in North Carolina, you got chapters in California, and certainly South Carolina. So, what have you been hearing from other people, just as a sense or movement about this election? Is it something that they're extremely interested in? B, what may motivate them? Is it just uh, disappointment, disaffection, anger? Um, what have you been hearing and what have you seen? Kind of as a larger trend, not just in South Carolina.
When I talk with my staff, we generally try to keep politics out of it because it's not what anything that we can do about politics
Hmm.
under the auspices of being a nonprofit organization.
Hmm.
So we have to steer clear of that. But in just general conversation, I think the biggest concern that's steering, I guess, voting, like I said, would be the Affordable Care Act. I think that's the biggest thing that's steering it. And I think Democrats are making a big deal of it now because of this new person that they want to put, that the
Right.
Republicans put on the Supreme Court.
Right. And I was going to ask you about that, but since you brought it up, I mean, what are they saying about the Supreme Court nominee, Judge Barrett? I
Most,
mean,
most people don't know anything about her.
hmm,
In the South, I should say, don't
okay.
know anything about her. But and I haven't had an opportunity. This morning is when they're going to start all the questioning and everything, and I haven't had an opportunity to really listen to the questioning. But I think that the Republicans are going to put her in there regardless. I think they're just going through the formalities right now. Senator Graham is doing whatever that Trump wants him to do,
Hmm.
regardless if he believes in it or not, because he believes that Trump will bring him along with him everywhere he goes. So he's going to push hard to make sure that happens. So I think that it will end up happening.
Mm, mm. Now, have you sensed resentment at or anger at the way the Republicans have uh, pushed this process forward so fast? Is that an issue that's resonating or not at all?
Right now, they have so much stuff. We as people have so much stuff to deal with right now. So
Hmm.
many issues to deal with. With our the sickness that are going on in our families, with our friends, with this COVID, the restrictions that are going on with the family and the COVID, not having jobs. So this is just something that's just piled on top of everything else that they're dealing with. So are they looking at that specifically right now? I would say no. But as a totality, they are looking at this is just another slap in the face.
Okay. Okay.
And
Now I want to ask you, a separate question. And oftentimes, uh, these discussions are not raised in the white community. That is to say, I mean, I don't necessarily have a barrier to talking about it or asking it, but for them, it's a sensitive subject. And I am taking advantage of our family relationship. Don't think that you're taking advantage of me, young man. I'm going to take advantage because I want us to have some what I call real talk, because that's what's unique about American politics. And that's this: Black Lives Matter. What are you thinking of the movement? How are you looking at it? Do you think they're right? Do you think they're going too far? Or do you think that they're not going far enough? Tell me about that. And you and I think I'd like to have a real honest discussion so
Mhm.
that others may see a window into how we think about it in our community. So, Black Lives Matter is the subject, Bruce.
Okay, Black Lives Matter. I think that in itself is a good thing. The group is a great group. I think that they're being infiltrated. And there are folks that are joining it that are not really lining up with their doctrine. They'll go
Uh,
out and start these riots and stuff like that. I just saw an email that showed, was it, I think, like 23 white folks that are part of Black Lives Matter, all of them being convicted for various crimes during, these riots and everything. So, do I think Black Lives Matter is a good thing? Yes, I do.
okay. All right. Well, then let's just go through this because, I am going to do something rare here. And I'm just going to start sharing. I mean, essentially, Black Lives Matter is essentially our modern version of the civil rights movement. We just have a different title
Right.
because the times have changed. But what you're talking about is you're talking about some of the same kinds of activities that went on during the civil rights matter, except at that time it was the federal government infiltrating and causing trouble in the
Exactly.
civil rights movement to try to discredit the leaders, including Martin Luther King, right?
Exactly.
And so I see that trend with Black Lives Matter, and you're noting that as well because Black people aren't being convicted of committing crimes while they're protesting. It's white people that are doing it,
Right. Right.
and isn't that the untold story? Because the media is not picking it up.
You know, I ran across the book that I was reading. After I finished it, but it made a comment that really resonated with me, and it said that things that matter to you or affect you matters to you. And I guess in just what he was saying that um, being black in America affects black folks. It
That's
doesn't
right.
affect white folks. So white folks don't look at being black in America as an issue. They don't look at it as being racism in America because they feel like, well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with me. They can go work for me anytime they want to, or they can get a job or do this, and it's not that simple.
Mhm.
And if they were to be black for
Right, walking our shoes.
rocking our shoes, correct, then the same issues that matter to us would matter to them.
Right. And so, I mean, I guess, and then let me ask you about this. And this is really kind of delicate, and you can feel free because this is a wide open section. I've never done this before on American politics. But I guess uh, when well meaning uh, white people say they're down with the cause and they've joined the movement, we obviously welcome them. But is it true unity, or is it still that they may kneel with us, they may pray with us, they may cry with us, they may raise their fist with us, and yet there's a disconnect that they are not us? Isn't there? Do you have that same feeling or no, Bruce?
Yeah, I certainly have that same feeling in a lot of instances. I hate the cliche of I have some white friends, but I
Right.
have friends that are down with us. White friends that will go to bat for us and
Uh-huh.
do things for us to make things better for the black community. I truly have that, and I truly believe in them.
Mhm.
But there's always going to be that thing in the back of your mind. What happens if it hits the fan?
Right.
Where are they going to be? You know.
Right.
But you won't know until it hits the fan.
That's right.
So we have to accept what we see, accept what they do, as long as we see that they're doing right and they're trying to do right. I mean, as a black businessman, in all honesty, I get more business from white folks than I do black folks.
Right.
In fact, I have to say that 95% of my business is either government or white folks. And so do I think that they are down with us or down with the cause, so to speak?
Mhm.
There are some that I would say yes. There are some that would say that they see the injustice and they're just against the injustice. They may not be down with us, but they're against the injustice that are done
Okay.
to us or any other people.
Okay, and then what do you see is no, given that there is always that piece. I guess we just have to go on faith, like you say. We have to look and see what they do and what their actions are until whatever hits the fan,
Right.
and then we really can find out what their character is about. But let me ask you this: Black Lives Matter in various places, and I would assume, and I'm assuming this, and you can either confirm or deny it, but I'm assuming that they are portrayed in South Carolina as a radical uh, a group of just people that just want to cause trouble. Am I right in that characterization or no?
That's where we go back to the media. The media portrays them as that because when the only time they show Black Lives Matter is when there's disruption, in cities where they're bombing or setting fires or something like that. And it's not, I do not believe that it's Black Lives Matter people. I believe there's people that infiltrate the Black Lives Matter group and do these things to discredit Black Lives Matter. And I think that was evident in the email that I got with those 23 folks that got arrested. Again, like I said, that's the media. And if they would actually walk alongside, how they used to put the reporters, they send them to Vietnam and send them with the troops.
Yeah,
Maybe
embed
they
them.
need to send them with the Black Lives Matter leaders and let them, walk with the Black Lives leaders and let them, go to these marches and be with them side by side and take pictures and be a part of it. Then, listen to how they speak versus these radicals that people that are actually radicals speak. No, I think that we need to have the media come on our side a little bit more and see what's really going on and give it a very objective.
Okay, well, listen, do you think Black Lives Matter has legs as a social movement group? Because this is what we hear, and if I might, we are always told when these new protests erupt, over what's been essentially been recurring as a pattern for over 400 years. But uh, each time there's a spark, uh, people of good intentions uh, band together, and then it peters out and goes nowhere. What makes this so different, and why should we expect or have faith that it might end differently this time, Bruce?
You know, I'm gonna say this. Do you know why organizations like Black Lives Matter stood up?
I'm listening.
They stood up because they didn't see organizations, longtime organizations like the NAACP, they didn't see them stand up. They didn't see other Black leaders stand up. So the leadership grew from the frustration out of young people. And I think that's one of the most powerful thing that we can have is young folks standing up saying, we do matter. We're tired of young Black men and young Black women being shot down by police and nothing ever resulting of it. One thing I can say in South Carolina, I don't see that as being the case because at least everybody that I've seen that's been publicized that has where law enforcement has shot and killed a Black person or even shot a Black person has been fired and convicted of that particular crime. But Black Lives Matter, those folks grow out of the lack of leadership from our Black community. They grow out of our frustration from the non-participation of organizations, and I'll be honest with you, like the NAACP,
Uh,
as it is currently, because I have not heard anything on television about the NAACP doing anything in South Carolina at all.
uh-huh.
I think the last thing that they did, and I spoke at this particular rally, or I guess, and it was at the State House when we spoke about the Black Panthers and the KKK coming to Columbia, South Carolina. And I spoke for the State House then, denouncing both
Right,
Black Panthers and the KKK.
right.
That's not what we need in South Carolina. I think that if we can work together, then we can live together. If we can live together, then we can make this place a whole lot better place than it is.
Okay, then let me ask you this, because in the media, it they they always give the most to attention to the far left and the far right. Now, and then politicians always talk about the silent. Well, they'll say the silent majority, and some of them say, the silent warriors. Um, I want to ask you this: do you think that there is a silent Black majority that exists that just has not been voting? Because that's a real sensitive issue, because we always talk about turnout, turnout, turnout. But then we're always confronted with statistics that show that our people in the Black community do not show up and vote. What's your sense of that, Bruce?
I think they're basically correct. I think the last time that they showed up and vote was for Barack Obama when he ran for president. I think that this time, I think the Black folks are going to show up and vote now because they're tired of what's going on in the United States. I think that they voted in record numbers so far in South Carolina. Georgia, we saw lines basically around the building with Black folks out there voting early. But yes, do I think that there's a solid majority of Black folks that are not voting? Yes, I do. I think that some of us are disenfranchised, that are just giving up, basically. And this is where leadership in the Black community is where it's needed. They need to hear from leaders, true leaders that really care about them and not just trying to get ahead for themselves. Mm-hmm. True leaders that will come out in the community and fight toe to toe to make those communities better. They're looking, we're looking for leaders. We're not looking for somebody that want to come out there and be elected for an office and then you never see them again until the next election. That just doesn't work, and that hasn't worked. One thing I want to talk about when it comes to leaders are our political leaders. I believe in term limits. Folks shouldn't be, in the House of Representatives, or senators or congressmen. They shouldn't be there forever.
Yeah, an election shouldn't be a retirement plan.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Right. And so I just have a side question. Are you a Mason or no?
I'm not a Mason.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Then what's the significance of the lapel pin?
That's the Rotary Rotary
Oh,
International.
okay. Sorry, so I misread that. That's all on me. Tell me about your Rotary Club.
I'm sorry. The Rotary Club. I'm not a member anymore. I had to concentrate on Project Unity, but it's the Eau Claire Rotary, and I mean a fantastic group of people that come together every Tuesday morning to have breakfast, and they meet at Columbia College.
Uh-huh.
Um, I mean, what can I say? They really are active in the community.
Uh-huh.
I think that it would do real good for a lot of Black politicians to join with them to make a change in the community, because the Eau Claire Rotary works directly in the Eau Claire community, or the 29203 community, and this is where Black leadership is necessary and needed.
Okay. Well, see, and this is what I'm struck by, Bruce. And one of the things that I think makes this so interesting. If I were to just kind of run down these things, this is what I would say. And I'm just going to leave color out of it for now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Retired police officer, award-winning police officer, two different jurisdictions. Founder of a public civic group that has now established chapters in multiple states. A CEO and owner of a long-standing business. A member of the Rotary Club. That sounds to me what America is. But for some reason, all of that is clouded when I say this person happens to be Black.
Yes.
I guess that's both the frustration of younger people when we say to them, "Hey, this is what you should do. This is this is the life you should lead. This upstanding life, committed to your community." And they say, "No, well, at first they may call you old man, and then they say, well, it hasn't gotten you anywhere because society continues to wash away the achievements because of your skin color."
Right.
So then we have nothing to offer it. I'm guessing are these your thoughts, that we have nothing to offer our young people by way of setting an example and being a role model like you?
You know,
And I know it's a tough question, Bruce, but I mean,
yeah,
seriously,
it's a tough question because
I see you shifting because
yeah,
I'm asking a question and I want an honest answer, Bruce.
I don't consider myself as a role model, so to speak.
Okay.
Um, I consider myself as somebody that truly cares about the community, somebody that truly wants to make a difference in the community. As far as our young folks, see, the issue with our young folks is all they see is negative stuff. When they come out in their front yard, they see, you know, Jason shooting Bobby, or, they see the prostitutes walking down the street. Um, they see people high walking down the street. They're getting high. They don't see anything else. I've always been taught that you can do no better until you know better.
Right.
So if you see the other side of the track, so to speak, let me share this with you. When I came back, I came back to South Carolina. One of my alma maters was Alcorn Middle School.
Mhm.
And I went to Alcorn Middle School and I asked them for 10 of the worst kids that they had, bar none, worst of the worst. Well, I got 12. Out of the 12, one went to jail immediately because he was part of a homicide, earlier before I got there. So they finally tracked him down. He went to jail.
Mhm.
I would take these kids to baseball games,
Mhm.
hockey games. I took them. This is one thing I took them to that really, really hit me hard, and it brought tears to my eyes. I took them to a restaurant that was an all-you-can-eat restaurant,
Mhm.
and took them there, paid for their meal. They went, got the food, sat down, and I had another chaperone with me. Now, all these are all males, so that's my
Uh-huh.
chaperone male as well. And we're sitting there talking at the table, and we looked out the corner of our eye and we saw that they got real quiet and started talking to each other. The kids did,
Uh-huh.
and we're like, okay, something about to pop off. This is not looking real good.
Okay.
So two of the kids, and I guess they elected these two as the leaders or spokesmen, they came to the table and they said, "Mr. Bruce, we know that this cost you a lot of money, because everything that I did out of pocket. I didn't ask for money
Right.
or anything. I did
Right.
out of pocket. So they came to me and they said, Mr. Bruce, we know this costs you a lot of money, but can the two of us just get buy one more plate and we'll share it with the group? And it dawned on me that these kids have never been to an all-you-can-eat restaurant. Something as simple as that.
Wow. So they didn't understand the concept.
They didn't understand the concept of it because they hadn't been, they'd never been there. They'd never been to a restaurant like that. They'll go to the burger joint, on the corner or something like that. But to actually go to a place where you sit down, eat, go back and get what you want and stuff like that, they hadn't been to anything like that. And that brought tears to my eyes because I realized then that you can't do better unless you know better. I mean, you just don't, I do have to say thank you to McDonald's because they helped me a lot by providing food. The baseball team here, they helped a lot because they provided tickets. The hockey team provided tickets. People are willing to help you do things for the community as long as they see you doing things for the community. And I think like with NAACP, people are willing to join the NAACP as long as they see the NAACP doing things positive. The NAACP should be taking leadership. They should be using the knowledge of the older folks and the energy of the younger folks to move this organization forward.
Okay. And then I guess, by extension, if the saying, if you know better, you can do better, or know better, be better, and then do better. So is it in a sense that the Black Lives Movement or our continued struggle is in this new incarnation is an attempt to explain to society what better is? And that way, by showing society, hey, this is better than that, so that we can then say we should all be better. What do you think of that?
I don't think the Black Lives Movement has gotten to that point yet. They're still showing people what is not right. And I think that's where they're at this point. Until the masses that they're trying to show what is not right, until they decide to come to the table and say, okay, let's talk about it, then you can't get to that point. I think that's, you got point A, B, and C. I think that's point C. Point A, getting the recognition and getting people to understand what's going on. That's where they're at right now. Point B is everybody coming to the table to try and work these things out. And then point C is when you start showing, what is better and what is not. But there has to be some kind of conversation going on. Right now, the conversation is one-sided. It's Black Lives Matter against the country, basically. Not really against the country, but, trying to let the country know that this is not right.
Okay. That's let me ask you this. I mean, with everything, do you see the glass is half full or half empty, Bruce?
I'm afraid to say that, I like to say that the glass is half full. Actually, it's more than half full, because one thing that really came to my attention is that, during the Black Lives Movement, you did see a lot of white folks, a lot of Hispanic, a lot of Chinese, Japanese, just people. You didn't see black folks come together. You saw people come together. And just because you saw 23 white folks get arrested for crimes during the Black Lives Matter movement, that's not indicative of all white folks. Like I said, you have white folks that are there that have been making positive moves, have supplied water, food, first aid, doing these movements. So that's a change. So I would say that's more than half full, because now, before, when you saw the movement of the NAACP and the civil rights movement back in the day, you maybe saw 10 white folks out of thousands of black folks marching. But now, I'm almost wanting to say it's half and half. I mean, it's not just black folks. You got a mixture coming forward saying, hey, this is not right. This is what, has to stop. So, one of the things I do is look at both sides of the table, because, I read a bunch of stuff, and I was reading something last night where, and, being a former police officer, I understand where they're coming from as well. It was a picture of, or somebody saying, well, why would you shoot somebody in the back, 7 times? And then the understatement was, or the caption was, because I'm not willing to risk my life for somebody that's being uncooperative and I'm not knowing what they're going for, what they're about to do. And the picture shows a guy running away from police, but he's aiming his gun back at the police, firing, you know, that type of stuff. So that's the other side. That's the way they look at it. And the, of course, the black side, all we see is a black man get shot in the back, or somebody putting a knee on the neck of a black man and having this black man call out for his mother, you know, crying for his mother. That hit me pretty hard as well, because that was something that should not have happened. And I don't care what law enforcement agency you work for, if there's any good in your bone or your body, you know that that should not have ever happened. Some of these other cases, you can say, well, this black person was doing something very wrong, and he left the officer no choice. I've been in situations and shootings where the person I was shooting at left me no choice. You know, you fire on me, trust me, this gets coming back. You know, if you do some overt that shows that you're going to do something to hurt me or stop me from going home at night, I'm going to react to it. You know? But you know,
yeah. So you share, you know, it's a cautious sense of optimism, but it's optimistic.
Right. It is optimistic. Yes.
You know, if you don't mind me, I might just crack a little joke. I'm going to see if I can get you to, you know, smirk. But Reagan said about the Soviets, trust but verify. I guess the Black Lives Movement is saying, have faith, but march.
Have faith, but march. Say that again now.
Okay. Black Lives Matter is saying, have faith, America, but yet we still march.
And yeah, that's a good point. They do have faith, and they have faith that things will change.
Yes, that's right.
And I think marching, and understand that marching wasn't something new. That's not something the Black Lives Matter came up with.
Right.
You know, that's something that NAACP and civil rights people came up with years ago. You know, we're just doing the same thing now, and with the addition of more minorities. So have hope, yes, definitely have hope, and you know, and they have a vision.
Okay.
You know, they're following that vision. You know, and I pray that they have much success. You asked me early on, do I think that they're going to fizzle out?
Yeah.
If things continue to be the way they are, in that black men and women keep being shot down in the street, or even in their homes, if we have a president that is inciting racial division, no, that won't stop. I mean, it won't fizzle out. If we continue not having leadership in the black community, they will be the leadership. Yes. So no, I don't think that will fizzle out.
Okay. And, you know, we are coming up on the end of our time. I want to say thank you. I know that that you're very busy, and I know that you are extremely important, and that I kind of insisted. But, you know, I'm honored. I'm honored for your service, and I'm honored to have the time to share with you so that I could share with our family here at IBMTV your outlook, to say, you know, that really gives a different perspective that I don't think we, at least here in America, really understand, that we do have a silent black majority that builds a community, that works a community, and that looks out for and has faith in our future. So, Bruce, I always like to end these in this way. So, tell us what's great about South Carolina. What's the state motto?
Great place to be. I don't know what the state, but gosh, and I knew that.
Okay.
But
I know I know it's known as Palmetto State, but you know
it is the Palmetto State. But I'm tell you, the greatest thing about South Carolina,
what?
And I'm probably one of the furthest folks from it, is the ocean and the beaches. I love the water. I have a 300-gallon saltwater aquarium as well. I have a pond in the backyard, so I love water. You know, So that is the greatest thing about South Carolina. I think the people are fantastic,
Uh-huh.
and they're growing. You know,
Oh,
white folks, black folks, we as a people are growing, and we're growing daily.
mhm.
Um, and it's fun to see it. It's great to watch it. You know, I get disheartened when I see, go back to my community and see some of the things that are going on in that community.
Uh-huh.
But as a totality, we as a people are growing.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that I really wish and I
Mhm.
hope for and I pray for with all my heart
Uh-huh.
is that we have stronger, true black leaders in South Carolina.
Mhm.
Congressman Clyburn, I have to take my hat off to him. He's battled many, many battles for us as black folks.
Mhm.
And he has some big folks to, for those battles and everything to deal with. And Senator, I'm calling him Senator, but
Yeah.
Jay
Okay.
Harris,
Okay.
I'm hoping that he'll get there. And I hope that when he does get there, he doesn't turn his back on the black folks that helped get him there.
Okay.
I'm not going to say that black folks put him there, but we helped get him there.
Right.
And, so I'm calling it that he will get there. We'll be blessed to have him there. And one of the best things about South Carolina,
Uh-huh.
and I'm gonna have to go home with this one, is my pastor, Pastor Greg Formey, one of the best pastors in the state of South Carolina. He has been a blessing to me, a
Mhm.
good guide to me.
Mhm.
Been there when I needed him, when things were down. Because as a leader, people think that I'm upbeat like this all the time, that
Right.
things are great all the time, that
Right.
I'm laughing and joking all the time. But there are times where I'm very, very disheartened, very saddened, very down forsaken
Mhm.
about the issues going on in our community.
Right.
He has been that common ear, that voice that speaks to you and says, it's going to be okay.
Right.
It's God's will. You just keep doing what God has ordained you to do, and everything will work itself out.
Mhm.
And that's what keeps me going. So, Pastor Greg Formey of the Potter's Christian Life Center, best church, best pastor for me.
Okay. Well, if I might brag a bit, I am proud that we share the same last name.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
and you're right. It is in our DNA. We choose whatever path to build a
Mhm.
better America. But I know you know it in your heart, and I'm just so proud of you. And I'm just pleased that I can say that I'm related to you, Bruce. But
Vice versa.
now, if it'll get me into the lizard thicket, the lizardy what?
Let's just take it.
Yeah, right. Great restaurant. That's where we
Yes,
went.
it is.
That,
Yes, it is.
that's right. You told me I'd miss it when I left, and I actually did. And I now I ask people if they go or if they know, because then I know who's from South Carolina, who's not.
Right, right.
Right. Okay, young man. Listen, I'm just gonna go ahead and close out the thing, and I will be talking
Okay.
to you in a moment. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for this interview, and I really appreciate your time.
Oh no, I'm so proud of you. I am so proud of you. But thank you again, and I'm honored professionally. So I'll be right back.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, there we have it. We have another episode of American Politics, this time from Columbia, South Carolina, from a gentleman whose family is so established in South Carolina that both his mother and his aunt were the first and second African American women to vote when they could finally vote in an election. And that truly is historic. And he's a young man that has returned home to do better because he knows better. And in his words, we can all do better. And yes, American politics is this ever churning, sometimes contradiction. But in the end, we always seem to get it right, but it's always with people of goodwill, sound mind, and a faith in the future, all of which our guest had tonight. So, for IBM Television, International Broadcast Media, this has been American Politics. We broadcast around the world in over 100 countries, from dictatorships to democracies. And with that, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'm your host, Bill Trezevant.